You're listening to Speaking Stellar Girl with Teri an interview series that inspires women to live their most stellar life. Teri is the co-founder of the Stellar Girl movement, and she is sitting down with women all over the world to hear about the key moments in their lives and how they live boldly, compassionately, and ultimately became a stellar girl.
Welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl. I'm your host, Teri, and I'm thrilled today to have Christine Bannister-Welch joining me. Christine is a life coach and sought-after empowering speaker. She began coaching in 2021 as an extension of her truth and her heart. After a 26-year career in emergency services, she pivoted into coaching to empower others. Her mission is to take her clients from chaos to clarity. I love that tagline. By helping them kick down doubts and fears that lead to limiting beliefs. Yeah. She is a magnetic healer, connector, a clarity creator, and I'm so looking forward to hearing her stellar story today. Welcome, Christine, to Speaking Stellar Girl.
Hi, Teri. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm thrilled because I want to hear a little bit about your background in emergency services before I lead into life coaching, because I would love to know what type of people need a life coach.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So give me a little history first.
Okay. So when I was young and had no idea which way I was going to go, I started at a regular 4-year university here in Wisconsin and realized right away that I just wasn't finding my footing. But thankfully, I took a first aid class as an elective and totally fell in love with it. And that is where my career in emergency services started. Okay. And so after that, I became a firefighter, then an EMT, and eventually a paramedic. And through that process, I eventually got into 911 call taking. And that is where I have been for the last 15 years and how I ended or retired out my emergency services career.
That is amazing. Well, thank you for your service, because, we don't, as women, we don't talk about like a firefighter. Like, that's freaking amazing. Like that is awesome in itself. And then, but what made you decide to change and pivot and go, okay, this is done. I am done dealing in crisis situations. I have solved many crises. I have lived in this chaos, as you talk about. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to become a life coach and a healer. So what does that mean?
Yeah. So life coaching to me is really about being a person that creates this space where we can step into it together. I can step into your chaos and we can together create a plan to keep moving you forward. And what I have found, not only in my own life, but in the life of others around me and the people that I've served, is that very often we get stuck. We get stuck in certain areas, which is, I can be successful in this area. I'm a successful businesswoman, but I just can't figure out this one area. And so that's where I love to connect with people. And with my history, not only personal history, but then the history of my business, what I have found is that trauma is very often lying in the underlings of our heart or our soul. And there's something that maybe happened to us or a bad decision we made for ourselves that caused some dysregulation in our nervous system, in our body, in the way we filter information. And so what I like to talk about is how trauma gets buried. It doesn't just get better. And so we really need to get in there and dig it up. And so when we talk about being women that are fearless and empowered and strong, I love to dig into the trauma and just like, how come we can let this one area sit? How come we can cover up this one area of our lives and ignore it and work through all these other areas, our physical life, our mental life, our emotional life, our relationships. Okay. And so that's why trauma is so important to me.
Okay. So because you've been doing this for quite a long time, I met you through a speaking engagement. You were extremely powerful and brought me so many laughs, and yet touched a lot of different emotions within me during your speech, which was incredible. But what type of person needs to say, I need a life coach? There is an area in my life or multiple areas in my life that need healing, that need to change, I need to figure out, or maybe you have a team of people that you work with. For example, like if you're a CEO of a company and you've got, a team of 6 underneath you, and you need a life coach to help you navigate through the professional side. So what type of person comes to you?
Yeah. So the type of people that come to me, it's a wide range, to be very honest.
Yes.
And there is a team of us. So I typically deal with people with trauma, but that, like I said, there's a wide range of ages, sex, different spaces in their lives where people might need a life coach or someone like me. But what I know is that I'm not in competition with anyone. And so part of my gifting is to be a connector. And I love connecting people with the right other people. And so what I have found is that I've surrounded myself with other like-minded, professional, amazing entrepreneurs, women business owners. And so I am very quick to evaluate and understand what a client needs. And I'm okay with saying, I'm not the best fit for you. Either maybe you need counseling first. Let's get you in with a counselor to do some of that deep work. And then you come back to me and we do the coaching. Okay. Coaching is very forward focused, very action oriented, whereas counseling can be digging in for a little bit. And so, there's also space for other types of coaches. I have a coach who I refer clients to that focuses on pivoting in your career, updating your resume. For me, I hadn't had to update my resume for like 26 years. So she was definitely a help to me. Other coaches that I refer out or women that do emotional code or emotional healing through the body. That can be very effective when you're trying to get unstuck from something in your life. And so there's lots of different coaches and lots of different people that I collaborate with as far as evaluating what someone needs.
Well, you're very easy to talk to. We've spoken at great length in June and then reconnected on the phone, and we just had some amazing conversations.
Yeah.
So I would like to talk about your comment because you call yourself a strategic disruptor. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I love that term. That collided for me at some point, and I just love the combination of those two words. But strategy is something that we sometimes think about as negative, like you've got this strategy to take me down, or they're being strategic in the way they're, trying to sell something to me. But I think being strategic is really about having a plan, right? Okay. And it's about doing something on purpose, being really intentional about something. And then disruptor as well kind of has a little negative connotation, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could see disruption as this beautiful mark in our timeline of like, oh, it made me step back, look at what's happening, and really think about what I'm doing and where I'm going. Okay. And so when I say I'm a strategic disruptor, this is part of what I can help people with, is just be that voice in that space of like, hey, is this really where you want to go? Is this really the outcome that you're looking for? Because the actions that you're taking right now are going to achieve only one thing.
That's amazing. Because what you're telling me is so interesting, because in my life, for example, I've got 4 kids, but some are more challenging than the others. And instead of always going, okay, like getting angry or upset, you're going to take that child in that moment and say, how am I going to react to that? And what am I going to learn about myself, about how I'm going to react? And then what can they teach me to better my reaction? Because it doesn't have to be anger. It doesn't have to be, okay, like it's got it my way or the highway. It is, you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to react to this situation best? And so that strategicness, but then also this disruptor is just like, I don't know, it makes so much sense in my personal life at home. So that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yes. I think it's a great thing to take on as a parent, as a woman, as a friend, because our goal, especially as parents, right, is to teach our children how to be successful without us. Right. And one of the components of that is teaching them how to process information and think. right? Like slow down, don't be so emotionally reactive. And so it's I just think it's so beautiful to be able to be in that space with someone, even if it's your friend. And just like you mentioned, we've been able to have a couple great conversations where we were challenging each other's thinking and
Right.
pressing into like, okay, I remember the conversation we had about broken is beautiful. And just that like play on words and like, wait, what does that mean? But we get to redefine things.
Right. Because, okay, well, you brought that up. Let's go there because I'd love to talk about that comment that we conversed about, which is broken is beautiful. Cause I didn't understand what you meant when you were saying that. Like, if you're broken, how is that beautiful? And it made so much more sense when you explained it to me. You got away with words, girl. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because at face value, it just doesn't seem to line up, right? It doesn't seem to make sense. But when we can redefine a word, so let's take broken, for example. Broken comes with a lot of connotation in the world. It's just very negative. You think of a broken glass on the floor. It's hurtful if you step on it. It's nearly impossible to put back together, right? But what we find in the truth of reality and in our lives is that brokenness, although it can be painful, it can be really hard and challenging. It can be sometimes some of the most beautiful spaces to be in when we can be completely broken down. One, we get to see ourselves for who we really are, right? Maybe the facade drops for a little bit, or this reality that we've created for ourselves kind of comes crashing down. But brokenness can also give us a space to see how beautiful we are, to see this beautiful space we are in, or this condition, or this relationship, right? You really know who your friends are when you're broken.
100%.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that really show up in beautiful ways when brokenness becomes something we acknowledge. Because I think we all have it. We don't all want to acknowledge it.
Right. So
People
I always
hide it.
Yeah, we do. And we do hide it so that we present ourselves in a different way. Like when I'm like, you feel anxious, or you feel, possibly some women could feel that depression or that overwhelming feeling. So I always tell people who say, well, how do you like deal with a day that is not as stellar as other days? Right. And I always say, I acknowledge that feeling within me. Right. So if I have anxiety, I'll say to the mirror, hi, anxiety. How you doing today? I acknowledge that you're here within my body.
Yes.
And what am I going to do with you today? Right now, I need to put you away because I'm going to, set some realistic goals for myself, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to feel overwhelmed and the anxiety is going to get worse. So you maybe write down your day. Maybe you follow your calendar. Maybe you go out for a 20-minute walk and you come back and you feel better. Whatever is going to make you be able to continue, instead of saying, oh, well, I'm so anxious. I'm having this day. I'm having this panic attack. And then your whole day's gone. Right. So that is a broken part, right, of so many of us that we can acknowledge and say hello to. So when you say we don't acknowledge those feelings, I think because they're all valid, they all run through us.
Absolutely.
We all have to give each other grace. Right. And those are the best friendships, right? Like, hey, I'm not so good today. Like, I know we had plans, but I'm not doing so good today. Like, instead of getting upset or angry about any of that, you give each other grace.
Yes. And then we have options, right? Then we can pivot. Then it's okay. We're not going to meet for lunch today, but could I grab some coffee and come over in my sweatpants? And can we snuggle on the couch and just talk? Then you have options about like, how can I really show up for you in a way that's going to be effective? How can I really be a good girlfriend today? How can I, really show up as my authentic self, meeting and talking with your authentic self? Because that, I think, is in my practice as a coach and just doing, so for almost 2 decades now, I've been doing, stress management, critical incident relief, debriefing, peer support, all these things through my career that I've just pulled along with me into my life coaching business. And so what I have found is that we lack authenticity very often because we're hiding.
Okay.
So when we talk about brokenness, right, I'm deeply wounded by this traumatic event that occurred, or I've had a buildup of stressful events, chronic issues. We lose our authenticity in that, because then we
Okay.
want to hide. And
Okay.
so I like what you're saying. I love that this space where we can be honest with ourselves and honest with other people. We can
Yeah.
acknowledge what's happening in our body and be authentic, saying, I'm having anxiety today, or I'm really fearful about this thing that I have to do, even though I really want to do it. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know how to traverse that
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And I mean, you're very talented at what you do. Obviously, with your career in emergency services, you've seen and experienced a lot.
Yeah.
So you're very well prepared to deal with any situation, right?
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it's physical or mental or a massive crisis, like,
Yes.
where 10 seconds does matter.
Yes.
And you also are blessed with the way with words, Christine, I do have to say, because like, I feel like I'm just talking to a girlfriend on the phone, even though I want to learn more about you and more about what you're doing, like it's a beautiful thing that you give to all of us. So champion that and take that for sure.
Thank
For
you.
sure. So, okay. So, we've talked about a little, a lot about what you do and how you can and process your healing journey. And then you talk about there's an ease in your healing journey for all women. And you're here to, walk them through their chaos, to find more clarity. You talk about the expression being aligned, being bold, right? So let's talk about your clarity coaching, like exactly how you would make something clear to someone who's having a difficult time figuring it out.
Yeah. So in my experience so far, what I have found is that when we are, in different spaces of dealing with stress or trauma, things get very foggy. So something that maybe an outsider would be able to make a decision about very quickly, or, detached from emotion, when we're in the middle of it all, things get foggy. It gets muddy and mucky. Think about walking through the mud with big rain boots on, and how you're like, everything gets slower, right? And a little more challenging because you're stuck in this mud. And, as a coach and being comfortable with chaos and stress and trauma, I have, I don't want to say it's ability, but I think it's a skill that I've just honed over the years, right after all the stress and all the trauma that I've witnessed, whether it's on the phone or it's actually in person with people, you almost get used to it. And I don't mean that to sound, in a callous way, but it doesn't scare me anymore. Right.
Okay.
My heart doesn't beat a million miles a minute anymore. So to step into that chaos with someone and be able to walk them down a path, right? Ask questions and lead them down a way that makes it simple. Like, let's simplify.
Okay.
Let's get really clear about what your intentions are. Let's get clear about the results you're looking for. And then let's walk that way. And so it's almost as simple as like, sometimes you just need someone to grab your hand and start you down the right path. And I think as a coach, that's how I see myself. And it seems so simplistic, but it's such a beautifully, I can't think of the word that I want to use.
That's okay.
There's just so many pieces moving all the time.
Yeah.
But it's so simplistic at the same time.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say like cheetah is your power pattern, what does that mean? I want to know what's
Here it is.
See, I saw you had it. So what from that animal, what from that print, what from that gives you that power, that passion? Tell me.
Yes.
Did you
And
wear
to
it?
be honest, I totally stole that from someone. I have no idea who. I heard
Okay.
it or saw it one day. I'm like, I love that.
Good.
And I have so many sweaters and scarves and shirts and just all these different things, cups, that when I am here, I feel intense.
Okay.
The best way possible. I feel like I can go get whatever I want.
Okay.
I feel this energy, this surging about me that is this beautiful connection of feminine and fierce. And I love being in that space.
Okay. Love that, because when you were just talking, and for those of you listening on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcast, if you just saw Christine's light up, her eyes, her face, her expression, her body language light up when she talked about this, that's awesome. It's just like people like have the power of pink or
Yeah.
something that makes them feel confident and they can, take on the day, they can
Yeah.
soar, they can slay, right?
Yeah.
And that's totally Stellar Girl. That is totally Stellar Girl.
And it can be different for all of us,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Whatever that thing is for you, whatever that power color,
Yes.
power pattern, power lipstick,
Yes.
power hairdo,
Yeah.
Find your power thing.
That outfit.
Yes. And then just own it, right?
And
just
then
like, yep, that's mine.
That's yours. And you were talking about earlier about like hitting the gym again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what types of exercise makes you feel most powerful?
I just started lifting weights again. And that makes me feel powerful and strong in the most beautiful, feminine, like strong, I can do anything kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's just been such a long time for me on my journey of health and wellness, that I've been so far away from myself for so long. And now that I'm coming back into who I really am and really stepping into this space with like, who is Christine? Who does she want to be? How does she want to show up? And that's part of how she wants to show up is strong, but not just internally strong, not just mentally strong, but now we're getting physical strong.
That's awesome.
Where my physical body is showing up to give me energy and strength to work out my purpose. Wow.
So you do a lot of self-admiration and self-celebration.
I try to. I'm going to be honest with you. I try to, and I feel like when I can show up in that space, it's spectacular.
Okay.
But I also have the days where it's not happening.
Right.
And I'm, like we all do. We all do.
Yeah. And we live in that either the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule, whatever, suits you best personally and what works for you and your family and your friends. I'm going to bring that back to recalibrating because you talk a lot about that. You also have a really super exciting workshop that's coming up.
Yes.
So please do a little bit of self-promotion, talk about that, talk about where we can find you online.
Okay.
Plug away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, I am showing up these days on Facebook. I'm Christine Jean Coaching, and I'm also on Instagram, and I've just started on TikTok, which I get so much great information from TikTok. And so I was really praying about like, how can I show up and add value there? Right.
Fun.
So I've just started showing up there. I have a website, so it's christinejean.net. And I am happy to say I'm in the space of not only pivoting my whole career, but we've been Christine Jean Coaching for 18 months, almost 2 years now. And we're about to change that as well. So I'll be shifting my branding, and our name is changing, and we're going to be called the Clarity Collab. And the intent of that is to hone in on that clarity piece. So we really want people to be able to get clarity when they're working with us, when they're connected in our space and just our network of providers and people and entrepreneurs and just people showing up, right?
Yeah.
And the collab part is just that piece in my heart that loves collaborating with others. And so I'm really excited. You'll see that launching in the next couple months here. I have a new offering that's going to be coming out. It's called Recalibrate. And Recalibrate is really focused on bringing ourselves back into authentic space once a month.
Okay.
And the intent of Recalibrate is to allow this time with me, whether it's in a group call, so you can do it with other people, maybe you do or don't know, on a group setting, or you can do it individually with me. And we create this space once a month where you can dump out what you've taken in. And so what we find is that very often we just keep adding to this cup, and the cup inside of us gets all filled up and we don't know what to do with it. And so Recalibrate is going to be a monthly brain maintenance. We're going to use it to let people keep evolving and keep moving and keep pushing towards clarity.
That's awesome. Just like you say, not here to dictate your path, but to find it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
And you also have a couple of upcoming speaking engagements.
I do.
Yes. Some women's conferences.
Yes. So I'm involved with a number of different groups, and I've been just so humbled and so blessed to speak at a number of different conferences, whether it's women's empowerment, conferences that have to do with leadership, women's leadership, 911. But what I have coming up in October is I'll be speaking at a conference called Now. Now is the time. Now is the time for women. And it's founded by a friend of mine. Her name is Kimberly, and she is head of a group called FEW. So it's the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women. And it's a spiritually based conference. And so I'll be one of the breakout speakers there, and then on the panel, and I'll be talking about trauma and bringing people back in. And so the conversation that I'm going to have is all about how we need to stop using the F word. Fine. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. No, everything's fine. And so that'll be what I'm talking about at the conference.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also you're doing She Can as well.
I'm doing She Can as well next year.
Chicago.
Yep. Okay. And Rise Up.
And Rise Up. You've got a lot going on, girl.
I do, and I'm so excited.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad we got to share this space today, that I got to know a little bit more that we can share with our listeners. If anyone is looking for someone to find that clarity within their chaos, someone to help them with their path moving forward, going forward, it's always the coaching is going forward, not stepping back. And you can find Christine at christinegene.net, but we will have her new information when this launches. And thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled, and I will see you on the other side.
Yes. Thanks, Teri, so much. And Stellar Girl, love it. I've got my sparkles on. I don't know if you can see them, but
I do. I love it. It makes us shine and glitter, and it makes us happy. Instant mood booster, right? Instant. I love it. Okay. Let's talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to be notified of new episodes. To learn more about the Stellar Girl movement, please visit us at stellargirl.com.